always thought it was nonsense when people who I was told were conspiracy theorists discussed Aaliyah's accidental death as an intentional murder. I thought these people were full of ish. I thought they were, grifters. I thought they were just doing this strictly for financial gain. That's until I began to actually look at the death of Aaliyah. And the more I looked and the more I dived deeper, the more it became very clear here, bruh. There's something very suspicious and very sketchy about the death of Aaliyah. The first mistake that I made when I was very educated on the Aaliyah conspiracy was thinking that this conspiracy is a newfound thing that came from people like Jaguar Wright and other internet conspiracy theorists who were just grifters looking for a quick buck off Aaliyah's death. That couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Before Jaguar Wright and the internet conspiracy theorists and the TikTokers and the YouTubers and the grifters, there were people who we believe as the general public are credible, family and friends of Aaliyah, who came out and stated, yo, this Aaliyah thing is a murder. And the information is gonna come out and is gonna prove is a murder very soon at the time of her death. Not 20 years later, at the time of her death, this was being said.
I just know that was a murder. You know what I'm saying? That was a spiritual murder, whether people know it or not. Because God don't kill people. You know what I'm saying? Whether people know it or not. And I could go deep, but a lot of people I would have to really bring proof. You know what I'm saying? For what I learned. And she just was cut down in the prime of her life. And it's so unfair. And it wasn't time. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, I believe it wasn't her time to go, because from what I know, it ain't supposed to go down like that.
Mary J. Blige is speaking with conviction, as if she knows with 100% certitude Aaliyah was murdered. And she says, yo, I can't really say too much right now unless I'm willing to come forward and bring proof. She wasn't willing to come forward and bring proof because we haven't heard her speak about it since. And if you watch her speak, it's as if she's speaking with conviction, but she's also speaking in code as if the other person she's speaking to on 106 in Park, as if they understand what she's talking about, but the audience doesn't. Now, I never quite understood exactly what I was feeling in terms of the crypticness of that particular statement on 106 in Park, but Jaguar Wright actually explained it perfectly.
Now, I want you to think about 106 in Park with Mary J. Blige. Free, who is a victim of Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige, who is a victim of Sean Combs, are sitting there talking about the death of Aaliyah amongst each other. Think about that. You got a Diddy victim, you got a Jay-Z victim, and you got a superstar gone. They know what happened.
Fans are led to believe when they hear plane crash and plane accident that this was, no pun intended, just a 1 in a million rare freak accident. That there's nothing anybody could have done about it. This is just one of those things that just happens and it's unfortunate and you can't really do nothing about it. It's life. But no, that's the eerie part about the death of Aaliyah. This wasn't just a freak accident. This was something that could have actually been avoided pretty easily. Not just could it have been avoided, there was probably a 99.9% chance that Aaliyah would still be alive today. It's the 0.1% chance that happened where everything that could go wrong went wrong. And that's why it's eerie. What are the chances that everything that could have possibly went wrong in this situation went wrong that led to the death of Aaliyah? You see, Aaliyah's brother did an interview after the death, and he says, yo, she didn't want to go on that plane, that she actually was adamant against it. She was actually protesting it. She would not go on that plane whatsoever.
The video was shot in Miami, part of it, and then it was kind of added on that she would have to go to the Bahamas to shoot some footage. She really didn't want to get, when she saw the little plane, you know, she really wasn't too comfortable with that, you know.
So how do Aaliyah go from, I'm not getting on this plane under any circumstances, it's not happening, I'm not doing it, I'm not traveling, to getting on the plane and then ultimately losing her life? Well, that story is pretty crazy. So hold on to your seatbelt, bruh. Let's get started. You see, a lot of conspiracy theorists and a lot of people in this situation point their hands at Jay-Z and Hype Williams.
Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling.
A lot of people point to Jay-Z because Jay-Z had an unhealthy obsession with Aaliyah. People found it weird that Jay-Z met Aaliyah when Aaliyah was with R. Kelly. Jay-Z was well aware that R. Kelly was with a 15-year-old Aaliyah and got married to her. So it was kind of odd that you met her in those circumstances, and then as soon as she became an adult, 18, you then start going after her too. Unfortunately for Jay-Z, he had a lot of competition. Every powerful man in the industry was courting Aaliyah and wanted her to be their girl, including somebody he closely worked with, his group mate, his label mate, somebody he started a clothing brand with, somebody he was in business with, Damon Dash.
Yeah, that day, that's when it happened. Like I said, me and homeboy was both getting at her. It was like one of us is gonna win, and I won.
So Jay, he was trying to get at it too.
Yeah, everybody knows that. He was going hard. It was Aaliyah. Everybody was going at Aaliyah. That's why it hurt so much when I was the one that got to get with her. But I wasn't even thinking I was going to fall in love. But she just was too ill. She too cool.
Was he feeling the type of way when you made it official with her?
Yeah, but I don't want to do that to him, bro. Obviously, you see you see what happened. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I would say so. His friends get with him.
Jay-Z took losing Aaliyah to Damon Dash really tough, like really hard and really personal, because he felt used by Aaliyah. Aaliyah was somebody who understood her power. She understood that all these powerful industry dudes wanted to sleep with her. They wanted to do so just to say they did it. And she knew that. So she would go on these dates, she would go on dinner dates, and she would extract a lot of gifts from these dudes, but she wouldn't sleep with them, right? She would just sort of date everybody, get all the gifts, get all the attention, but not really do nothing with them. And she ultimately chose Damon Dash out of everybody, and Jay-Z felt used.
I kind of eased up, but then we ran into each other. It's a long story.
So you and Jay was both getting at Aaliyah. Obviously,
everybody was getting at Aaliyah, bro.
Right.
She was like, she'll go to dinner with a, but she wasn't going to just be smashing. So that was like the big deal, like who could get with Aaliyah.
Jay-Z felt so slighted that Aaliyah took his gifts, but then ultimately chose his friend over him, that he sabotaged a very lucrative business relationship with Damon Dash. Like, that was the reason why Rockefeller fell apart.
The true reason of Rockefeller's breakup.
But everybody knows that. We were both. I
heard it, but I didn't.
Yeah, but what they be trying to act like he was like really whatnot. He was sending flowers and doing all this shit that he was courting her. So we were both going hard.
Jay-Z was so upset that Aaliyah took all his gifts, took all his courting attempts, took his money, went out with him, but chose his friend over him, that he began to do things to go against Aaliyah, right? To spite Aaliyah. You see, Aaliyah was around Rockefeller more because she was dating Damon, right? Who was like the president, the CEO. So she was essentially a part of Rockefeller. She was a part of the group and the crew. So Jay-Z doing things like making an album with R. Kelly, going on tour with R. Kelly, bringing R. Kelly around more, knowing that Aaliyah was also around was kind of odd, because at the time it was full-blown and 100% known that R. Kelly statutory raped Aaliyah, right? Because Aaliyah was underage. So Damon was pissed off about this. He's like, bro, what are you doing? Yo, she's a part of the crew now, and you're bringing somebody around who essentially raped her when she was underage. But Jay-Z told Damon, that's not my problem. I don't care.
Did Jay know about what he did to Aaliyah?
Did he know that everybody knew R. Kelly married Aaliyah at 15? Everybody knew that. So was the conversation had like, yo, how you gonna go and do something with this dude? Hell yeah, that conversation was had. Hey, you think I'm soft? Pause, like I'm punk? That didn't happen. I was like, yo, how you gonna do a project with my motherfucking girl? We had the conversation. Why would you still with a nigga that with someone that raped your girl? Would you still do anything with that person? So why would anyone expect me to? Like, that's what I don't understand. I'd be like, yo, people be like, why? Well, just that alone. There's a lot of other shit. But that alone was like the nail in the coffin for me. I was out of there.
It's because Jay-Z had this visceral disgust for Aaliyah that a lot of people find it suspicious that Jay-Z's homie, personal video director, right-hand homie Hype Williams is the sole reason behind Aaliyah being dead today. Because Jay-Z was already going out of his way to spite her and doing things to be very petty to Aaliyah, that when you factor in that his video director is the reason why Aaliyah is currently dead, he's the only reason why Aaliyah is currently dead, it's like, damn, that's a little sus, all right? Hype Williams and Aaliyah was filming a music video for Rock the Boat in Miami. The footage was amazing. Everything was going great. The choreography, the everything, the scenery, it turned out amazing. Even today, when you watch the Rock the Boat music video, it's a classic. It's beautiful as is. But right when the music video was about to get done, it's like 95% done, Hype Williams said, yo, we going to the Bahamas. We have to. Aaliyah and everybody was very confused as to why they were going to the Bahamas when they were already in Miami and almost done with this music video. Why are they packing up things and going to the Bahamas to finish up the last 1% of this music video? They thought it was completely unnecessary.
She was in Miami, and the video was supposed to be in Miami. And I had told her, I was like, Hype does this thing where he'll act like he needs more days just so he can get paid more. And don't let him do that. And then, all of a sudden she comes back and was like, he wants to go to the Bahamas. I was like, I told you he was going to do that.
Everybody thought this was weird, but Hype Williams was the premier video director at the time, so they went along with it. They just went with it. So Aaliyah, being somebody who was super paranoid, super terrified to fly, just hated flying. She didn't want to fly commercial. So she began to make accommodations on how she would get to the Bahamas safely. So she began to call her friends. And one of the people that she reached was Lenny Kravitz. And Lenny Kravitz had this beautiful, huge private jet that could fit tons of people. So he sent his private jet to Aaliyah for her to use it. However, Aaliyah didn't get to use the huge, beautiful, safe private jet.
And what I had heard was that, what I was told was she was supposed to be on Lenny Kravitz's jet, but like he offered it to her. And you could ask Lenny Kravitz, I guess. And Hype took it and had her on that plane, but he had to pattern
Hype Williams took the huge, luxurious private jet for himself and left a really small plane for Aaliyah and a crew of 8 with all the equipment to fit jam-packed on that little plane to get to the Bahamas, while he was on his way to the Bahamas in the huge, luxurious private jet that Lenny Kravitz sent for Aaliyah specifically. Now, here's where things get weird. Aaliyah knew, right? Like Aaliyah knew this wasn't safe. Like Aaliyah knew something wasn't right. Something was up. So Aaliyah had to have been drugged. She had to take sedatives. Now, Aaliyah took so much sedatives to calm herself down that she had to be carried to the plane. She couldn't walk to the plane by herself. She had to be carried onto the plane. That's how out of it Aaliyah was.
We know that she took some sort of a relaxant of some kind, which many people do. I do sometimes when I'm flying.
Take the edge off a little bit.
Take the edge off a little bit. There are reports that she was in fact calmed, she potentially sedated, and there are some talk that she was actually carried back onto the plane. We're not exactly sure what state she was in, but at some point she, the 7 passengers, and the pilot Luis Morales get back on the plane and begin the process of taking off.
Yeah.
While Aaliyah is sedated, almost unconscious, the plane takes off. Now, when the plane takes off, there were issues almost immediately. Issues that any experienced pilot, any pilot who went to school for this would be able to spot. However, it wasn't spotted, and we will find out soon exactly why. Now, when the plane took off, the plane was at a nosedive. It was never upright. It was always at a slant going up like this because that's how heavy the weight was.
Pilot, who we'll talk about in a minute, recommended that only 7 people fly with Aaliyah, or a total of 7 people in the party. She happened to have 8 in her party. And there was also some heavy equipment and luggage on board. Aaliyah was a nervous flyer, and she was immediately sort of put off by this. Another thing, the flight was scheduled to take off early in the night. It was about 3.5 hours late to arrive at the Abaco Islands.
Which, if you're a nervous flyer, already adds to your anxiety. You see this tiny plane, they're late, it's nightfall all of a sudden. Shortly after takeoff, literally 200 feet from the runway, the plane nosedives and crashes, killing nearly instantly 7 of the passengers and the pilot.
Here's where things start getting a little weird. Now, obviously, the first thing that anybody will spot, if Hype Williams had the private jet, the luxurious, huge private jet with a lot of seats that could take a lot of people, why would he take that by himself and force 8 people to fit in one small, cramped private jet with equipment that went over the limit? Why wouldn't you take that equipment and put it in a huge private jet, or take the group of 8 and split up in 4 and send them with Hype Williams? Why would he take the plane by himself and then force Aaliyah to go on a plane with 7 other people when the limit was 7 total, not 8, and then put equipment that forced the plane to go 900 pounds above the weight limit? Why would they do that? But that's not even the worst part about this, bro. The worst part about this was, see, Hype Williams knew. Hype Williams knew not to get on that small plane because something was up. Not only was the plane sabotaged from the very beginning because the plane went over the weight limit, this is where you got to hold on to your seats, people. This is where you got to sit back and say, hold up now, bro. This needs to be reopened and reinvestigated. The pilot that was tasked of carrying Aaliyah, a global superstar, was rejected from every other professional private jet airline company. They rejected him. This pilot faked his transcripts, faked his training, ain't have enough hours to be a professional pilot. Nobody would touch him. But this airline that sent that little plane for Aaliyah, this airline was the only one to ever give him a gig, and that was his first gig. Now, check it out, people. When the pilot went to pick up Aaliyah, not only was he inexperienced and shouldn't be there, but this man was on coke and alcohol and high out of his mind.
U.S. aviation officials said the FAA records showed Morales' name was not even on the authorization papers, though. So things started to snowball and get worse as they peeled back the layers. And it looked as if Black Hawk, the company that hired him to fly their chartered jet, hadn't actually put his name as an authorized pilot for that flight. This is a big problem. And now you start to see how things could turn into potential lawsuits against the company that hired him. And that's a deeper pocket.
And we have some toxicology reports you're going to talk about in a second here that make things even worse for Luis Morales. He was actually high on cocaine at the time of the flight.
Yeah, this is a big problem. So the toxicology report reveals traces of cocaine and alcohol in Morales' system. Just a few weeks before the crash, he'd actually been booked on a felony cocaine possession charge when cops in Broward County, Florida, say they found a crack cocaine in his car after pulling him over for running a stop sign.
Aaliyah was so adamant about getting on that plane, she had to have been drugged and sedated and carried onto the plane for her to be on there. So, and Aaliyah, who was passed out and drugged, met her demise because a plane that was overweight, that she shouldn't have been on in the first place, was being piloted by a pilot who was high on cocaine and alcohol. This is what we're talking about here, where 99.9% of the time, Aaliyah makes it out alive. Because somewhere down the line, like a mistake is spotted, right? Somewhere down the line, 99.9% of the time, she probably would have been on the plane that was sent for her. 99.9% of the time, she probably wouldn't have been sedated and would have said, you know what, I'm not getting on, sorry. 99.9% of the time, a director is probably not changing the location that they set to film at last minute after 99.9% of the video is already filmed. 99.9% of the time, the director is probably going to carry all the equipment he needs on his private plane, not leave it up to Aaliyah and the crew to carry it on a little plane. 99.9% of the time, your pilot will be an actual pilot with hours who could actually operate a plane, who's certified to operate a plane. 99.9% of the time, your pilot won't be high on coke and alcohol. 0.1% of the time is what we've seen happen. The 0.1%, which is the instance where all the signs were ignored, that's what got Aaliyah. Now, you can say the 0.1%, the probability of everything going unnoticed and happening is 0.1%. Now, you can say the 0.1% is coincidental. I don't think so, bruh. Nah, bruh. That 0.1% had to be intentional, bruh. It had to be manually manufactured for everything to happen how it happened. Now, people point at Jay-Z because, they believe that Jay-Z and Hype Williams was in cahoots. I'm not going to go there because I don't know. I'm going to let you guys make your determination. What do you guys think? Do y'all believe Jay-Z was involved? Let me know. And if you're still watching, click on this video somewhere on my screen to find out why Lil Baby attempts at trying to avoid this federal RICO indictment won't work. Click on this video right here to find out what I'm talking about. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.